Welcome to Generation Digital Workforce, the podcast that's here to explore the role of robotic process automation and other digital technologies. Whether you're just getting started or you're looking for advanced strategies and tactics, if you're curious about where human and digital workers are coming together to transform the future of work, then this podcast is for you. All right, let's get into the show.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us this week for Generation Digital Workforce. This is Zena, and I'm coming at you from Austin, Texas. I'm really glad you joined us today. My guest is Bruce Mazza. Did I say that right, Bruce?
You got it right on. Thanks, Zena.
All right. Welcome. You want to tell our guests a little about yourself?
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here on the podcast. Thank you, Zena. I'm in charge of the technology alliances at Blue Prism globally, and it's a really exciting place to be where we're joining up with the best-in-class tools, whether they're cognitive tools, process management tools, and other exciting areas to make digital transformation come alive in enterprises. So right at the heart of a lot of innovation with our partner companies and technology alliances. Glad to be here.
Really, really cool. I love the way you said that, at the intersection, at the heart of it. Tell us a little bit about how you and the technology partners fit into what we call the digital workforce.
Absolutely. So at Blue Prism, we really talk about this idea of the connected RPA platform that's built and ready for the enterprise. And as part of that, many enterprises choose various different best-in-class tools for everything from visualization, OCR, to their choice of CRM platform, to their choice of HR platform for human capital management, and so on. And for all of those areas that our customers rely on us, is that they want a relevant RPA platform that can scale, that can also plug directly into and have viable use cases with all of those other software investments that they make. And really, that is where the heart of connected RPA lies, is a scalable enterprise platform that can integrate to anything that is relevant inside the enterprise. Any platforms, any software tools, any sources of data, whether they're fully automated or human in the loop.
The connected RPA platform then is really what is allowing us to build out these digital workers. Can you tell us a little bit more about what a digital worker is? It is somewhat conceptual. A lot of our audience is new to this topic, so just kind of take it to the basics for us.
Absolutely. I'll start at the top of the level, the top of the waves, to really help us understand. If you think about your workforces, I'm talking here obviously to the audience, your workforces are comprised of insourced labor and sometimes outsourced labor, where your business might be looking either to cost optimize or to add staff in certain peaks and to manage certain regional deployments of staff. And really, the digital workforce is the third leg, or the third wave of resources that you can count on and rely on to scale your business and to cost optimize your business. So if you think about it from that standpoint, and you think about the big picture of how businesses are very much exposed to different business models, trying to grow quickly, in lieu of the fact that right now, as we record this podcast, we're dealing with this major challenge of COVID-19 and its impact on the global economy. There'll also be a number of other shifts in how businesses need to conduct work. So a digital workforce and a digital worker, which is, in our context, a flexible digital resource that can do a variety of different tasks. That digital worker can be deployed to do finance. It could be deployed to do HR tasks. It can be deployed to do supply chain tasks, and so on. And we talk about the idea of giving that digital worker skills. Skills might be visual skills so that they can read and interpret documents. Giving a digital worker the ability to have cognitive skills so that it can start thinking and adapting to workflows. Giving the digital worker collaboration skills so that it can invoke interaction with a human worker and really be an assist to that human work and workforce as well. So hopefully that gives a little view from the top down kind of imperative, as well as what a digital worker is in that context.
Yeah, I love the way you put it, the third wave of resources, onshore, offshore, both of those represented, generational shifts, if you will, in the way we thought about workers and the workforce. And I think we're seeing that again today, which is, part of why we named our podcast What We Did. Can you talk about the trends or the characteristics that you see impacting us moving to a digital workforce, as multiple industries, global companies are doing today? And then kind of also what's going on inside of companies today that is driving this move to needing this third wave of resources, as you put it.
Absolutely. I mean, on the positive side, for many organizations, they're investing heavily in digitization so that they can be relevant long into the future and very adaptive to their customer base. So you see many examples of this where large organizations or medium or even some small organizations are refining their way of doing customer experience. They want to adapt to the new buyers, whether those are, the millennials or even younger generations that buy only through mobile experiences or only interact with chatbots instead of contacting a traditional operational center or customer center, dealing with the ability to have data flow as soon as it hits from the customer into the operational heart of an enterprise without nearly as many steps, and going transactionally, from kind of 0 to 60 in a matter of seconds rather than hours or days to complete customer-facing transactions. And then it really starts to hit at the heart of the trends of businesses, staying relevant, staying aggressive with how they're serving customers. The second thing I think would be from an IT domain, that the reality is, as IT teams are extremely taxed in terms of what they're asked to do to support the business, they can only fund and support a certain number of projects. And that leaves the remainder of the work, where the line of businesses inside large enterprises need to staff and support projects. In fact, our data shows us that 70% of operations tasks are taking place outside of core IT systems. So that means there's this long tail of work that isn't really supported by IT, not because they don't want to, but because budgets and resources constrain them from doing that. And then you add on top of that the fact that many enterprises have a heavy mixture of both legacy environments and tools and IT systems, everything from mainframes to technology bought 15, 20 years ago to technology even bought 5 years ago that's prem-based, and then a smattering and in some cases a large component of cloud systems. And most enterprises have to bridge that gap between the legacy and the new. And what does that mean? Well, that means that adaptation from legacy to new often requires human workers sitting in between those systems, literally doing swivel chair to move data or to move a transaction from start to finish. And then probably the final one is the one I mentioned a little bit ago, with this complete change in what might be facing us as a global economy around COVID-19 really speaks to the idea of operational continuity. And businesses need to be so ready for adaptation, where things change every day. And how do you do that? How do you face this massive challenge when you have to redistribute work, redistribute processes, get people to work from home, not have the ability to work on certain things at all, and still deal with the demands of customers, either whether that's in a decline or in some cases, for some businesses, a massive increase of business that's going to come from such disruption. So operational continuity is the other huge trend. So customer experience, IT realities, and then operational continuity. Those are big ones we often see.
Bruce, I love the way that, you've summed it up into three real, trends that you're seeing around customer experience, the reality of IT, as you put it, and the operation continuity. In light of what's going on, kind of on the global scale right now with the coronavirus and the impacts that it's having, can you talk to us a little bit about, the benefits that businesses who have digital workforce might be experiencing right now?
Yeah, and it's clear to say that obviously it's very early days and no one really understands all the potential impacts and how the solutions can help or help guide customers through it. But conceptually, at least, I'll share a few things. A digital workforce works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and stays compliant to the task at hand. And that obviously creates that level of continuity where if you can't get workers into your enterprise or even working virtually, you could still have a pool of workers that is driving forward the business. And nothing goes without a lot of disruption in these times. But if you think about certain industries that are going to be massively taxed and are immediately being taxed into unprecedented levels, I'll start with just telcos, carriers. As we sit on this webinar, as we're recording it, the data demands of hitting the internet and the bandwidth and the acquisition of bandwidth, as now millions of people are working from different locations, is both a challenge and an opportunity for telcos to deal with that influx of additional demand and data. We work with telcos around the world to help them modernize and speed their operations through digital workers. Another one that's just of massive consequence is certainly here in the U.S. that the federal government is considering immediate distribution of billions of dollars of small business loans to keep our restaurants and shops and all the small business owners that make this economy go afloat. And everything from the feds to the large banks that now will have to process unprecedented numbers of loans in very short periods of time. You can imagine the tax and the workload on those teams and workers that will, hopefully be able to work with that. But a digital workforce can automate things like loan processing or be assistive in that process. And those are the kinds of things that, businesses that are now having to pivot or having to deal with different demands in the business could use a digital workforce for.
Yeah, that's great. Going back to that third wave of resources that we talked about, the onshore, the offshore, right now, both of those resource pools are being taxed, globally, as we're going through what we're going through. So it's good to know that we have that digital resource there that we can rely on, that this, it's basically immune from what's going on with our other workers today. With that, I would like to look a little bit to the future and talk a little bit about digital workers and what they can do, not only today, but in the future as they are able to take on more cognitive skills. Some of my other, guests have talked a little bit about artificial intelligence and machine learning and things like this. Can you, I know you work with our TAP partners, our alliance partners, and you have firsthand kind of knowledge of the types of cognitive skills that can augment your digital workers. Can you share some of those capabilities with us and the type of new roles that are evolving for this digital workforce that maybe even potentially your other workers couldn't accomplish?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'll start just briefly by saying, with the Technology Alliance, we call it the TAP program. We, again, partner with best-in-class technology vendors, and we have the digital exchange where all of our customers and partners can find their best-in-class vendor and find integrations or what we call skills that allow you to connect Blue Prism to your platform of choice. So just to give a couple of examples and relate it to use cases, we have the best-in-class vendors that are providing OCR and that's optical character recognition. So this is kind of giving eyesight to the digital workers. And in that case, there are many different processes that our customers have employed, everything from automating invoice processing, where the digital worker reads the invoices, collects the data, organizes it, and sorts it into the way it could be processed through an ERP system. And that takes an OCR partner. So we have the best-in-class partners there that you can build into those workflows. That could be used for things like end-of-month bank reconciliation or journal entries, anywhere where there's kind of structured data in text form that's sitting on a document that could be adjusted and replayed. We also could use those things in things like processes like supply chain, contract adherence, reading from all your vendors their new pricing in a contract and ensuring that that actually is matching the invoice that's being paid to the supplier. Or even things like VAT compliance, which value-added tax shipping compliance for all the millions of shipments that go through supply chains. We do have integrations with HR systems. This is obviously a massive thing, employee onboarding and offboarding. How do you prepare all the paperwork to onboard and move that new employee into systems immediately and quickly so they can get on board and start working? And in the case of offboarding, how do you remove them from systems? We have partners that help with that. We have partners that help with in capital markets, loan automation that I just talked about, in banking, trade processing. This is everything with monitoring, reconciling, reporting of traded securities, and also tracking fraudulent money transfers. The digital workers can do that. We have the ability to look at on the insurance side, automating claims for the public that's submitting claims to their insurance carrier. How do we automate all that? We do that with many of the largest insurance companies in the world. And we also do things like know your customer. So as companies are dealing with the risk around compliance of who they work with, who their customers are, who their employees are, knowing your customer to ensure that ongoing monitoring of clients to make sure they're within compliance, everything from terrorism risks to fraudulent behavior. So those are just a few of the, we'll call them standard RPA use cases that are used out in the world today and are a combination of Blue Prism plus our best-in-class technology vendors. We start to move into the next phase.
I don't mean to interrupt you there, but I do want to follow up on something you mentioned. All of those use cases that you really described there have very sensitive, proprietary, confidential, personal confidential data, if you will, or are in highly regulated, industries or processes within industries. Can you share a little bit, before we go too far, off about the digital workers and how they, are really beneficial in these types of use cases, why they're so beneficial to these types of use cases?
Absolutely. Yeah. Blue Prism is really grounded in this idea of security and compliance and repudiation. And that comes from the fact that our legacy in history has been always working with large companies that security was top of mind. So large financial organizations, insurance carriers, and other governments and critical industries. So because of that, we've built in a number of capabilities so that the digital workforce, everything it touches, everything it does, every task it interacts with, every piece of data that it carries is all audited and tracked and fully available through, a database that shows all of those transactions. Now think about that, compare that to a normal worker. That may not be the case, right? A normal employee, you may not be able to see everything they touch, do, and how they did it and how long it took. But with the case with Blue Prism Digital Workforce, it's fully auditable, fully compliant. We have a number of other security features. I'm not going to go into all the details, but know that we've been certified at the highest levels for security within banks and federal governments. And, we're very much in the place of being a trusted digital workforce that can bring even more security into the enterprise.
I have to say, I do love that you referred to us as the normal workers.
Yeah, the normal. I'm one of them, by the way. Exactly.
Oh, I know. I am too. That's why I said referred to us.
Yeah, that's right. You and me. Well,
yeah, exactly. You and me.
Yeah. Well, in fact,
that is a good question. I'm going to ask you then. I know it's not something that we had necessarily prepared, but do you have digital workers on your team?
I'm glad you asked that. Yes, we do. We have a digital worker right now that is doing development for us. And The digital worker's name is Sergey. And for those of you who don't know, Sergey was the name of the CEO of Google. And Sergey's first task was actually to write API integrations to all of the Google APIs. And that's what Sergey did. And Sergey did that in a matter of hours instead of months. So we do have digital workers. We have digital workers within Blue Prism doing everything from assisting our sellers with our CRM tasks and Salesforce to automating license generations and other different tasks. So increasingly, we use our own platform as we're a fast-growing company and need to automate work as well. So thanks for prompting that. And if I go back on the security for a moment, as secure as the platform is, we also have best-in-class partners in the TAP program to help us raise that bar. So this is asking the digital workers to interact with credentials, so credential management systems. We integrate with companies like CyberArk, SailPoint, and in the future others that provide that credential management that our enterprises rely on. So we're fully compliant and integrated to those tools as well.
So let's go back to those use cases that we were talking about earlier and talk a little bit about the before and the after when it comes to these digital workers having the skills, as you called them.
Absolutely. Glad you reprompted that because it's really important. And again, I will think about it conceptually and then I give you very real examples. So conceptually, the world of tasks that are very repeatable, the Blue Prism platform adapts extremely well to those highly structured tasks and processes. But it also adapts extremely well to highly unstructured tasks and processes when you adapt in various different tools and vendors that can offer AI cognitive layers. So let me give some examples. The first element of that is we talked about kind of invoice processing. An invoice is a relatively standard document. There's some variations to it, but you can find certain data elements and the robot can process invoices with an OCR engine. But when you move to highly unstructured text, this could be, for example, what the financial industry is facing with LIBOR. LIBOR is an underlying rate of most contracts in the world is going away. And that LIBOR rate needs to be replaced by various different negotiated rates for banks, insurance companies, everything. Those LIBOR rates and those contracts are often paid thousands and thousands and thousands, I'll say millions of pages of contract documents, sometimes digitized, sometimes sitting in drawers, that needs to be read, interpreted, and then put into a remediation plan of how to take those contract rates out and then put in a remediation plan to rewrite the rates into the asset manager's preferred method. So that's a highly unstructured set of data. So we have partner vendors that can deal with that unstructured data. We can drag and drop their capabilities into a workflow, deal with the unstructured data, and then continue on in a process flow end to end to make that work, in that case, LIBOR remediation. But that deals with all kinds of other highly unstructured data sources. Anti-money laundering, free trade zone compliance, those both have highly unstructured sets of data. I'll give another example. Now, outside of finance, we have oil companies that have multi-billion-dollar pipelines, and they were trying to identify all the locations where a particular part was installed on all of these pipelines, and that had to deal with safety and compliance. They had something like, thousands of part numbers and 200,000 engineering documents, large unsearchable images. So we've leveraged our vendors that have cognitive skills, can actually view pictures and interpret them, and then also unstructured text to make sense of that massive inventory of pipelines and parts and draw it into a workable resolution plan and risk mitigation plan. So pretty cool. Now you also take things like, well, what happens when you have emails? How would you like a digital worker to deal with not only, what's in an email, but the sentiment in an email? And we have vendors that offer natural language processing and natural language understanding. This is actually interpreting the text in the emails or text or chatbots or other areas so that, if you're, for example, in a capital market and you're trying to do post-trade execution, you can not only look at the volume of data in real time, which is often handled over email, with your trading partners, but you can also look at their sentiment and urgency and which ones you need to prioritize and change the process flow in the digital worker immediately to adapt to that. Think about chatbots. In the chatbot world, again, that's automating certain customer interactions. But what if you could actually interpret and intercept that data and then score the risk of that customer interaction in real time? We can do that with our digital workers and chatbot vendors combined together. We could look at HR onboarding. Let's go back to that process. So you onboard a number of partners, employees, and then over time, you also want to manage the attrition risk. So we can plug in AI engines that can monitor certain behaviors and look at attrition risk of those employees based on patterns. Invoice preparation. It's great that we can have digital workers that do invoice preparation, but why not add an AI engine so that you can actually look at cash flow projection based on the flow of invoices that are coming through versus your balance of cash as a company? What about shipment tracking? I gave that example. We can do shipment tracking and supplier interactions. But what if you could learn from that data and optimize your delivery schedules and look at a completely updated process to optimize your supply chain? Those things are all within reach right now. And what we often say is digital workforce and RPA that we produce with Blue Prism is a gateway into AI. It's the combination of having the arms and the legs of a digital worker with these AI cognitive layers that allows you to adapt and move into this environment. And that's pretty cool stuff. One more example I'll give because it's relevant to how we deal with the front office, and we're increasingly working within contact centers and assisting agents by having digital workers pair with the agents and do mundane work while the contact center agent works on the real customer service. Wouldn't it be cool if we could convert the speech in real time to understand the sentiment of the user, and while that sentiment of that user is being captured in real time, have the digital worker adjust their flow or adjust their priority or maybe shift it to a different language like Spanish? Or otherwise, we can do that with a real-time digital platform and our partners. So pretty cool stuff. It's making AI real, and that's really important these days inside of enterprises that are trying to compete, win, and stay inside their business continuity framework right now.
Yeah, it is definitely pretty cool. And, one of the things that you mentioned is that, these things were attainable today. But for some of our listeners, it may actually seem technically prohibitive, what you've described and the vision that you've, built for our audience. Can you talk to us about how companies should think about getting started?
Yeah, it's a great question, Zena. It can seem overwhelming because there are just so many possibilities here. And so I'm going to give a few specific ideas. I mean, first and foremost, you want to look at what's going to make the biggest difference inside of your enterprise for the digital workforce. And our teams, our centers of excellence, our customer office, and our teams are very much here to help prioritize and using our partners, our resale partners, and GSIs and SIs to help you reach that clarity. We also have some technology partners that can help get that clarity. There are process mining and discovery best-in-class vendors that we partner with that can help you draw out a very clear roadmap for what is automatable and what are the tasks and processes that will provide the best return on investment. So look to us for process mining and discovery vendors and support on selecting one and implementing that within your enterprise to get that roadmap. Second thing is visit our digital exchange. Our digital exchange, so just go to Blue Prism Digital Exchange, put it in your browser, you'll find the link to it. And what you can see there is the companies that we partner with and the connectors and the drag and drop capabilities that are pre-built. You can search for industry, you can search for your particular technology type that you're interested in, and learn more about those connections. And again, talk to your Blue Prism team that can help you navigate the digital exchange to adapt and find those targets of automation and integration. And then again, as you may already have certain vendors that you're working with in these different domains, whether it be chatbots or AI engines or OCR engines or process mining and discovery. But our team has a wealth of great relationships with those companies and partnerships. And so feel free to come to us so that we can help you again educate and navigate on that best-in-class partner ecosystem. And then finally, if you have a vendor integration that you need that we don't have on the digital exchange, again, let us know. We're very adaptive and working with a number of companies to onboard them as technology partners to build these drag and drop automations so that you can take advantage of them quickly and easily. Let us know, because we will adapt and work towards getting that support that you need with that technology partner, and you'll have them in your toolkit, your digital ops toolkit, as I think Gartner likes to call it, as part of this hyper automation curve. Vendors are moving very quickly to put together solutions that are at this intelligent automation layer. And we do that through best-in-class choice and vendors that you want to work with and that we can bring to the table and have ready for you.
Great. Thank you, Bruce. This has been very informative and inspirational, I would like to say, as well, as you've shared some of the jobs that our digital workforce is able to do today, and looking forward to some of the things that they'll be able to do in the future as well. So we've come to the point in my show where I like to ask my guests a question that's completely unrehearsed, and in fact, you didn't even know I would ask it, and that I like to call it my Xena Zinger. So for this question, let me ask you, given sort of the environment we're living in today, this is on my mind. So if a digital worker were a first responder, what kind of first responder would they be and why?
Oh, you zinged me pretty good. Well, fortunately, I've got some friends that are emergency workers. One's a firefighter, one's a policeman, and also a friend that's a nurse. It's really interesting to think about. Digital worker, I think, in this context, I would hope that we'd bring to the table digital workers that could help the massively taxed healthcare system with this massive testing and data acquisition and helping patients and adjusting patients. I'd want a digital worker to be helping the frontline workers in hospitals, and certainly know that it'll be challenging times ahead for many, and that's just what comes to mind. So hopefully that happens and we can help.
Absolutely. Well, knowing that digital workers, are working 24/7 and certainly are immune to, what our dare I say it, normal workers are not immune to right now, that is a great way to leverage them in this time of need. So thank you very much, Bruce, for joining us. I really appreciate your time and your insights and perspective, and I think we'll very much look forward to the next time you join us.
Wonderful. Thank you, Xena, and thanks for the audience for listening. Go well.
Great. Have a great day, everyone. Signing off.
You've been listening to Generation Digital Workforce. If you want to hear more about RPA, AI, and other cognitive technologies that are shaping the future of work, join us next time as we continue to go deeper on these topics with industry innovators and experts. To make sure you never miss a future episode, subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast player. And if you've liked what you heard today, please leave us a review. It's one of the best ways to help more people find valuable content. For show notes and more info, visit us at blueprism.com/podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.